Thank you, Ambassador Jones. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, all Prime Minister, and the representative of our host country, the United States of America. So I read a bit of history. There was a man who was president of the United States named William Henry Harrison, who in 1841 gave a long speech during his inauguration. It was freezing cold and raining, and died 30 days later. I promise you that won't happen again. Prime Minister, congratulations to Ambassador Wendell Jones on getting the job done. My friend Sidney Poitier would have said in that oft-repeated phrase that he gave at the 1964 Academy Award presentation, because it's been a long journey. Thank you, Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, for making this possible. The next stop, I have a list, is the London office and our building in Harlem. It is an honor to be minister responsible for this process. I wish to add words of welcome to the widow of the late L.B. Johnson and his family, about whom I will say more later. I am pleased to thank Ambassador Jones, our Permanent Secretary Melvin Seymour, and all the staff, both foreign and domestic, the contractors, for making this possible, for doing so on time and on budget. It's a minor miracle. I wish to acknowledge my college friends, Clarence and Diane Stoops, who have always taken time out of their schedules to be here with we Bahamians on this special occasion. This evening, I want to remember tonight two other friends, originally from St. Louis in Missouri, and latterly from the District of Columbia, here in Washington. And they are Frank Jasmine and Carol Randolph. Both sadly have passed away. Frank graduated with me from Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government in 1980. And I met his wife, and at their invitation, I came to Washington in 1980 for the first time. And then Joe Barry Carroll was the highlight of college basketball in the Final Four. Bryant Gumbel and Greg, his brother, were the high flyers at NBC and CBS. And the song for that Final Four occasion was, "This is it. Make no mistake where you are. Your back's to the corner." My classmate, Frank, worked for the Social Security Administration, and in the years following our graduation from Harvard, we were continually in touch because he had a keen knowledge and a sense of politics of this city. His wife was a TV presenter on DC television. As large as Washington is, though, it is a much larger city, of course, than Nassau. But the pathologies and the passion of politics and intrigue are exactly the same. Everyone knows everyone here. And the informal associations have helped to guide me in the development of our foreign policy and my views both as an activist and then as a minister. When I came here in 1980, Reg Wood was the ambassador. He was a friend of my parents and became a friend of mine. He succeeded L.B. Johnson. And when Frank and his wife, we called him Jake, I invited the ambassador to come over to their house where I was staying. I had no idea what a fuss this was going to cause. Carol went out shopping, tidying up, buying this and buying that, and getting the best wines, so that when the ambassador showed up, everything was perfectly fine. And he had a Cadillac in those days. That was the car of choice. So had Carol and Frank been here today, I'm sure they would have been beaming with pride. So I want to thank them, Jake and Carol, and rest in peace. I have apologies from Roger Noriega, the former Assistant Secretary of State for Western Hemisphere Affairs in the Bush era, and he's sorry he's unable to make it. Now, I start with these stories because it is relationships that make things work or not work. The relationships cut the Gordian knots and gets us over the hump and across the finish line, whatever analogy you want to make or use. Toni Morrison, the Nobel laureate, told the New York Times that when you have power, you get to name things. And the Prime Minister will do just that job in a few minutes with this building, newly refurbished, in its multi-million-dollar incarnation. I toured it this morning, and it is magnificently done. A small outpost of a small country in the Atlantic Ocean, the Lucayan Sea, called the Bahamas. And this building means much to those of us who live in the Bahamas and who are all intimately tied to the success of our host country. We are entirely dependent on the U.S. for our survival, and the rule of law and a common morality, the policies of decades of rational actors, has caused us to survive in the Lucayan Sea, even though we are smaller in size than Dade County in Florida. But we have a right to an independent existence. The Declaration of Human Rights of 1945 says that everyone has the right to leave their country, to return, and the corollary to that is an implied right to lawfully enter another country and to be treated fairly and respectfully within the law. Convenience does not discard the rule of law and moral principles. We exist in a zone of peace, and we use our voice to fight to maintain it. L.B. Johnson, late of Exuma, a soft-spoken, humble man, accepted the challenge of Lyndon Pindling to come to Washington to start this project in 1973. He did that for 2 terms. And when he returned, he left a stellar record of service and set the groundings with what you see today. Honorary consuls in Houston, Denver, Chicago, Detroit, and Minneapolis. Consuls general in Miami, Atlanta, New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. A permanent mission at the Organization of American States. A permanent mission at the United Nations. It was L.B.'s instruction to establish the Bahamian creed in foreign affairs: friends of all, enemies of none. And that old-time religion remains the creed today. We are at peace with all of our neighbors, Cuba, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and of course, the United States of America. But L.B.'s service took a personal toll on him and his family. It was not easy to give up a thriving legal practice for 6 years, and in those days, out of sight, out of mind. The allowances and support were not what they should have been, and when he returned home, the climate at home had changed dramatically. Alliances had realigned and changed, and he had to start again afresh. So today, for that sacrifice, we honor him, as today's generation of Foreign Service officers look back at the pictures of L.B. and all who served this country in the position of ambassador, and how long it has taken, and who did what, and ask why they did it. Margaret MacDonald bought this building. Her FSO was David Cates, who is now a permanent secretary today. He has lived to see this day, even though she has gone on. Sir Cornelius Smith, who was ambassador in 2012, when I became minister for the second time, initiated the first conversation with me when I came here and said the building was falling apart. That was in 2012, 13 years ago. and we've just gotten it done. In Nassau, when the US was building its embassy, the DCM there told me that they had a 7-year time planning limit, and they just got that done this year and moved in. I say that because things take time. And who can say why that is or why it isn't? It just is. Pericles Malis, George Stewart were young officers in 1973 when the British left the Bahamas. And they started to build the Bahamas Foreign Service. And we're still not there. I am pledged to continue with the regs and ensure proper pay support and transparency and appointments and promotions and transfers in a transparent manner. That is what the modern era demands. So I wish then to congratulate Chrissy Hanna, who's been awarded the Foreign Service Medal as a Foreign Service Officer and Deputy Chief of Mission. Tonight, the medals are going to be presented to Michaela Bullard, who serves in the OAS mission, and to Ms. Jones, Michelle Jones, who also serves in the OAS mission, and the Prime Minister will present the medals at the end of his presentation. But to Ambassador Jones, Director General Ali, PS's Melvin Seymour, and David Cates, and the entire Bahamian Diplomatic Corps, we are as pleased as punch to have arrived at this moment. One brief, shining moment in time. But in the words of the poet, we have promises to keep and miles to go before we sleep. Thank you, Prime Minister, your statement to this August gathering. Please welcome the Prime Minister.
Please be seated.